Off top in Kazakhstan, Lake Balkhash is half saltwater, and on the western side, it's all freshwater. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show, presented by Allstate. Throw your hands up. We are joined by Bill Barnwell, as we do on the Monday show. And my man, Charlie Kravitz Vanilla Snack, has a slight shoe upgrade. I'm proud of him. Next step is we gotta get you out of these kids' shirts, these middle school shirts that you're wearing. We gotta get you stop shopping at Aeropostale and your ashy jeans. Gotta get some lotion on them jeans. Moving on.
Okay.
I'm trying to help you.
Okay.
Get your game up.
Thank you.
I want Carrie to be happy.
This is spoken like a man who's very sad about Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson on a Sunday night, is lashing out for no reason.
No, just first shot of the show already. You're defensive about your up top. We could tell you didn't like it. Didn't feel like it went down well. Now you're going at Charlie a week after you yourself were lambasted publicly on the internet for your fashion choices. I feel like we're going to get a real all-timer from you tonight, Dominique.
I'm not going to go at you like you went at me.
Oh, no.
I'm happy with my quarterback's win today. I don't need to go at...
Your quarterback is Anthony Richardson. That's your beloved quarterback.
Ooh,
you are not happy with the way that.
No. That's a half-decade plan. We'll talk about that over the next 5 years as his development. You can't hurt me.
You can't pretend like you're happy with how the Commanders, how Jaden Daniels is still throwing his body into harm's way.
We'll get to all the games that happen, but I am a Commanders fan. I'm very happy with how Jaden Daniels played. All of the fashion choices in his family, but there is a moment today.
Tell the truth.
When he got slammed to the turf.
And what'd you do?
I opened up 5 tabs on YouTube.
What were these tabs?
Dylan Raiola highlights. Arch Manning highlights. Nico from Tennessee, I don't want to butcher his last name, highlights. DJ Lagway highlights.
Oh, for those of you who don't know, Charlie's already looking at who the quarterbacks are going to be available in 2027,
I just
2028.
I have to protect myself because it can't go on like this for 3 years. I promise you that. I've seen this movie before, and he gets hit way too hard for this to keep going that way.
That's also what Jaden Daniels' bones were saying after that game, is that it can't go on this way for 3 more years.
Clearly, either Jaden can't hear his bones or his bones can't talk, because he's been throwing them into the meat grinder ever since I've seen him start playing at LSU. But anyway, where do you want to start?
I want to start with the concept.
Oh, gosh.
Bill, this is... Week 2 is officially going to be called Whiplash Week on the Domonique Foxworth Show.
So excited.
Because what we do in Week 1 is we overreact to all the things that we thought we knew going into the season. Then in Week 2, we're cranked the other direction and we have whiplash. So we're going to go through a couple of the results, a couple of the games, and we're going to see what's real, what isn't, where we should fall on these results, and talk about both of them. First one, the Saints, the New Orleans Saints, who Domonique Foxworth called fraudulent after Week 1. They demolished the Dallas Cowboys, who after Week 1, we all agreed that we shouldn't have bought in so much to the offseason drama, and this is the same 12-win team that we get every single year. So with this whiplash, did this Week 2 performance tell you more about the Saints or the Cowboys?
I think it told me more about the Saints. The Cowboys, the best case scenario for the Cowboys is that they're going to be as good as they were last year. And last year, it was a similar style. Like, this team is built in a way that is scary when they get a lead early, and then they pull away and destroy you. You don't have a lead early. Their weak run defense is exposed, and their offense becomes one-dimensional when they only have one really talented receiver. So, honestly, I didn't think the Saints could do this to them, but I did think that if the Cowboys were going to, or however many times the Cowboys were going to lose this season, this was going to be the script. I would have expected it to be against a team that was better, but maybe the Saints are as good as they are playing right now, because the numbers sure do suggest that they're dominant.
Well, not surprised you thought this was the script, because the last time we saw the Cowboys lose, this was the script. This was the Packers game 2.0, was it not? I mean, the Cowboys got run over at the line of scrimmage. The Saints were very successful running the football against the Dallas Cowboys. They hit some big plays over the top. The Cowboys were not able to hold up. They were not able to force turnovers. And then you put Dak in obvious passing situations, and that offense was not successful. They were one-dimensional. CeeDee Lamb had one long touchdown on a coverage where he was able to slip away. But otherwise, they were getting physically overwhelmed. They were failing in the red zone late in the game. They did not look like, to me, any different than the way they looked in that Packers game. And I think given how stilted, how not all in this offseason was, the one thing you would have hoped for if you were a Cowboys fan, by bringing in Mike Zimmer, by signing Eric Kendricks, all that stuff they did this offseason, the hope would have been, okay, at least we can avoid being that team we were against the Packers. But that's exactly what they were in this game.
And getting bombed on by Shaheed, you can't stop the run and get bombed on. You gotta, if you're going to
do one.
That is really uncomfortable, and it sets you up for a blowout. I do have only one criticism. Oh, we didn't mention Alvin Kamara, who apparently is 25 again.
His legs are the same weight now. After 2 years of correcting the muscle imbalances, he's fast again.
Dominique, we guys talked about your quarterbacks earlier on. Charlie about Jaden Daniels. You mentioned Dominique is a Lamar Jackson fan. I believe I went to bat during the Charlie's Tears podcast on Derek Carr and got mostly disinterest from the other people on this panel. And now Derek Carr looks like the guy the Carr family believes he is. They're unblocking people on Twitter to tell them how great he is. He was incredible. He was incredible last week. He was incredible this week.
He was incredible. He was very full of himself, because that is the only criticism I have of Derek Carr is the Michael Jackson celebration. Where did that come from?
Oh, dude, the little crotch pump.
Where did that come from? Like, I understand people were doing like Rich Homie Quan celebrations. Like, it's relevant right now. I saw some of the Ravens doing Jacoby Jones dance celebrations. It's relevant. Is there like some Michael Jackson leaked tapes that I don't know about?
This man spent multiple seasons with Jameis Winston.
That's the explanation.
Hands down.
That was the only thing that was baffling. He was just so shocked that he was destroying this team that he was like, hey, I scored a touchdown. What do? The only dance move I know. This works at the family reunion. People always laugh.
I mean, Dominique, you did not score many touchdowns during your football career as a cornerback. Is that fair to say?
I scored one touchdown and got called back.
Blocking the back.
But did you?
Terrell Suggs. I was kind of angry, but you know what you don't say to Sizzle? That you're upset. You let Sizzle do whatever Sizzle gonna do, because he saved me from giving up plenty of touchdowns because of his great pass rush. But I mean, my one lone touchdown against the Steelers.
Did you know the touchdown was not going to count when you were crossing the end zone?
I did.
You did. So there was no celebration was coming.
No, it was still an interception, so it's still worth celebrating. I caught the interception on like an out, and then I was running, and the only person that could tackle me was the tight end. Cut back on the tight end and was good. And as I was passing the tight end, I saw Suggs dive into his back, and I was like, this is coming back. So I took it to the rest of the end zone, and Ben Roethlisberger was trying to tackle me, and I redirected myself because I knew it wasn't going to count, and ran right in, tried to blow Ben Roethlisberger up, and I got in the end zone. Then I went and like high-fived some fans in the back of the thing and walked to the sideline, and was like, all right, let's hear.
You acted like you were there before, and because you knew it wasn't going to count. But did you not? As someone who does not score touchdown very often, who still played in the NFL and could have scored a touchdown at any point, did you not have like touchdown celebrations in the back of your head just in case that day you did score? Because I kind of feel like that's what Derek Carr has had for pretty much, he hasn't had a touchdown in 4 years, I don't think.
Well, it wasn't relevant 4 years ago either. So I don't know why Derek Carr goes to like a touchdown dance that would have been most awesome in the late 80s, early 90s. Anyway.
We should mention the name Clint Kubiak.
Oh,
because he's going to be a head coach next year if this team makes the playoffs.
Easy.
Guaranteed.
He might be by midseason.
So before we move on from this game, Bill, as you fought with those tiers, so now your Mount Rushmore, your top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL are Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, and Derek Carr. Is that how your top 4 shakes out after 2 weeks of the season?
I would say, it is a Mount Rushmore, but like the heads they're getting bigger and smaller with each series. And I feel like the Sam Darnold head is now 4 times the size of all the other heads combined after the first 2 weeks of the year. The Derek Carr head is growing, to be fair, but I just think, this is a guy who people were absolutely writing off. Like he was like the 32nd quarterback being taken in fantasy drafts. Like Saints fans were booing him last year off the field while he was getting hurt. They hated Derek Carr. And now 2 weeks in, the vibes have changed entirely. That's how you know this has been so good. Saints fans are excited again.
I love that you made the Sam Darnold head to scale.
I was wondering if you were going to make a Lego joke or a side. I thought that you weren't going to let a Sam Darnold head opportunity move past.
Of course not.
That's right.
I am who I am. Let's move on to Dominique's other quarterback who lost today, which is the Ravens, who have dropped to 0-2 after losing to the Las Vegas Raiders. I obviously predicted this perfectly on on our Friday show.
Right.
Really?
When I picked the Ravens in our survivor pool.
Yeah, he picked it opposite perfectly.
But if you look at their upcoming schedule after this game, like the Ravens defense and offense did not look what we thought they were going to be coming into the season. They have Dallas, Buffalo, and Cincy in the next few games. Their offensive line has been problematic, to say the least. Is it panic time after these 2 weeks? Where do you fall in the whiplash? Because we sort of patted the Ravens on the head and said, "Oh, good job, good moral victory for being close to."
I
the
called
Chiefs.
you out because I thought that was nonsense.
But now, this is opposite day.
Yeah,
they played when they didn't have a lead against the Chiefs, and now they couldn't hold a lead against the Raiders. Where do you fall on these teams?
I mean, it's a very Ravensy issue of the last few years is they've outplayed some teams until the end, and then they give up improbable wins that they should have had under control. This one was less improbable because the offensive line issues, but I wasn't surprised by it because I've become accustomed to it. Then I went back and watched the game and was like, yeah, the Ravens are better than them.
Yeah.
I think Brock Bowers stood out as an exceptional addition to the Raiders. Oh, relax. Exceptional addition to the Raiders offense. However, I didn't walk away from this thinking, oh, the Ravens are in trouble. But I did walk away thinking the Ravens are in trouble because they gave away a game that they had to win.
Two things very quickly. One, on our pod, you're denying this, but last week your Dominique was that they're one of the two best teams in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm not denying it. How am I denying it? I'm not denying it. I thought that last week. I don't know. I have to go through all the results today to figure out if I still feel that way.
Second of all, Brock Bowers is skyrocketing up our show's list of bald whites. Sorry.
He is in the Arjen Robben category of like great athletes who are bald when they're 23 years old. I'm so thrilled to invite him to the club. I'm so nervous every week. I'm afraid I'm gonna like go on Twitter and see like, oh, Brock Bowers went to Turkey during the bye week. I'm just hoping he joins us. There's so many of us, Brock. Come join us.
Fight it, Brock. Go get some plugs.
Bill, what do you think about this game, though?
Here's my concern. I think we've talked a lot about the Ravens' offense, and the offensive line is a problem. I think the running game has been inconsistent, and that's a concern, and probably related to the offensive line. This defense is not playing well. And it's one thing if you give up a lot of big plays to the Chiefs, but Ravens have allowed, I think, 8 plays of 25 yards or more the first 2 weeks of the year, most of any team in football. They had the third fewest of any team in football last season. They're not getting as consistent of a pass rush. They're still making some pass rush plays, but just not as consistently. Secondary's been inconsistent in coverage. Some big penalties at DPI and Marlon Humphrey in this game that cost them about 30 yards. They didn't have anybody who can cover Brock Bowers. Like they kind of miss Patrick Queen a bit. Obviously, you still have Roquan Smith. He's still a great player, but they're integrating some new players into the lineup. Just feels like this defense was the thing that kept them afloat when Lamar would have an okay game as opposed to a great game last year. And now it feels like it's all on Lamar because the defense they weren't able to hold up as the game went along.
Yeah, I really like Simpson, the linebackers replacing Queen, as an explosive athlete. But it felt like to me, in watching some of the most pivotal plays in this game, that he was out of position. And like that big corner from Brock Bowers, he's hugging the line of scrimmage while everyone else is in a deep zone. There was an option route to Bowers that converted on an important third down. And they did a zone blitz, and he's reading to the opposite side when there's someone on his side that it appeared like he should be covering. Like those mental mistakes are things that you can't come back from when you're in tight games. And I think that they also, to your point, like they got plenty of sacks, but the pass rush broke down, and Minshew, when he made plays, it was a lot of like buying time, which it sucks because in those moments you need somebody to make a play. You need someone to be able to corral that quarterback and not let him get out of the pocket, or you need someone on the defense to make a big play. And last year I felt like someone would have a breakdown. So the D-line would not contain the quarterback. But Hamilton would make a ridiculous play. Or sometimes you see someone running free in the back end. And then Matabike would chase someone down. And they haven't had those plays in these last couple weeks. So, like, I don't feel like the defense has taken a step back talent-wise. I do think that Simpson's got to get a little bit better defensive instincts. It seems like he left them out to dry a few times by being a little bit too aggressive.
The other thing that popped up today, and I feel like this has been a thing people like the three of us who are football nerds have noticed, but it broke contain this week. People have realized Justin Tucker is not good on 50-plus yard field goals anymore.
Yeah.
Like it was all over the place when he missed one. People were like, 1 of 8? Justin Tucker? And there was an actual national panic very briefly. Yeah. So that's a concern because Justin Tucker has been the kind of bailout for this Ravens offense when they have struggled in years past. And I don't know if he's that guy anymore.
It's crazy that Brandon Aubrey's the new guy. Like it felt like Justin Tucker
is so the new guy.
He's the guy.
He's incredible.
It feels like that stretch when Anthony Edwards was like getting Jordan comparisons in the playoffs. It's like Brandon Aubrey is the.
It feels a little bit realer than that because Jordan wasn't currently like choking in the playoffs and missing shots that he normally would make. So
yeah, it's also their kicker. So
I thought you were comparing to Anthony Richardson, which is the highest compliment Charlie can pay in a human being.
Oh, are we even going to get to Anthony Richardson? Have you?
Not my rundown.
Have you constructed a show in order to avoid your beloved Anthony Richardson to get the criticism that he deserves?
Don't we have some Colts whiplash here? Because last week we were talking about Anthony Richardson as like the most exciting player in football, and this week he could not move the ball on a Packers team that ran a game plan out of like a high school playbook from 1975.
Exactly.
That was pretty crazy.
That's all you got. That's
one way to put it.
Pretty crazy.
It was. I mean, did you see how far his Hail Mary went in the air? Though it went so high. It's the highest Hail Mary we've seen since Rodgers throwing him back when all of his extremities worked. No, I have no defense of Anthony Richardson right now. He played real bad. I still believe in the talent.
I was wrong. Last week I said it was going to take a month for the Anthony Richardson blowback. It only took a week. We're here already on the Anthony Richardson blowback train.
We're on a multi-year plan. We'll get there. He's young. He didn't play that much football. It's 15 games in college in the NFL. Oh. He didn't get coached up at Florida. They were playing that other guy over him who was terrible. This might be a reason that I should have doubted him.
Should be a sign, but we'll see. I'm rooting for him.
The old Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, the old biscuit. Since we were just talking about check-ins on stuff, before we get to the rest of the games, as we go through the 1:00 games, put your hands up. It's time for the check-in presented by Allstate. And today we're going to be checking in on the rookie pass catchers. We got a bounce back from Dominique's future Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison Jr., who had 4 receptions for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, all of which came very early in the game. Clocked over 20 miles per hour on his 60-yard touchdown reception. Malik Neighbors, who, despite dropping a pass at the end of the game against the Commanders, was probably the best player in the field. He was spectacular. And Brock Bowers, who's already getting hyped as one of the premier tight ends in the NFL already on a Raiders offense where we expected to get a high target share but not produce as much. There was a ton of hype coming into this season about this group of pass catchers being historically good. Of the 3 of them, has anyone stood out to you so far this season?
I mean, we're not going to spend any time. We spent a bunch of time about all the things I was wrong about. Are we going to spend any time talking about Marvin Harrison Jr.?
That can be the one that stands out.
That is the one that stands out. But I don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about me. But anyway, Marvin Harrison Jr. stood out to me because he answered all the questions that we had from last week and all the questions I told you he would answer. He outran everyone. He made big plays. They designed plays for him. And also, I think Kyler deserves a tremendous amount of credit for how well Marvin was able to play because he bought time. And yeah, the more time you buy, it's impossible in this league to cover any of those great receivers for an extended period of time, especially if they're as good as Marvin Harrison Jr. And he has some big, impressive plays, like a couple of plays that would be the highlight of most receivers' seasons. He had them in this same game, Bill.
That first touchdown, it kind of felt like, I think the Rams were in quarters or they were in cover 6 or something. They were in quarter field coverage. Kind of felt like they had read those reports from the week. Like, oh, this guy only runs 15.8 miles per hour. Max, we're good. Tre'Davious White found out the hard way that Marvin Harrison can go a little faster than that on a given week. I mean, I think we could talk about Marvin Harrison. I thought he was awesome in this game. I think Malik Neighbors, to Charlie's point, was the best player on the field, even though, a drop that probably ended up costing them the game later on. But, the Giants offense looked hopeless really when it was not going to Malik Neighbors, and they looked good when Malik Neighbors was getting the football. I just want to talk about Kyler. I thought Kyler Murray was the best quarterback I watched this week. He was phenomenal. And I mean, I think in our heads, like, we have this perception of Kyler as like, yeah, he's fine. He's going to make a few plays, but I don't think people see him or his upside as top 10 quarterback. But I don't know, guys. He looked phenomenal on Sunday.
I think you're probably right about our general view of Kyler Murray is like pretty good somewhere in there, but I think it's because he has those really great games, and then he also like has a series of games that aren't great. And so like in our mind, we average it out to like
Mr. October. He's a baseball guy.
To like pretty good. He is a baseball guy. To like pretty good. But yeah, when things are right, and maybe having Marvin Harrison Jr. will make things right more often now going forward. And James Conner is a good back, and the defense is better than I think any of us anticipated. Maybe we do see the Kyler Murray. I mean,
this week though, because the Rams were down to Ben Skoranek. I guess he's not on the team anymore, but they were down to Sean McVay, friends and family playing receiver by the end of this game. So
better than I anticipated.
The reason why they were good.
Still better than I anticipated. I anticipated real fire over there on defense. But, yeah, so Kyler Murray special, Marvin Harrison special. I think Malik Neighbors, I guess, deserves a little bit more focus because he doesn't have Kyler Murray or any of the support that Marvin Harrison Jr. has on offense.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's pretty crazy. He's the second receiver since 2010 who's 22 or under to have 15-plus targets and 200-plus air yards in a game. The other one was Odell Beckham during his rookie season, who is in the pantheon of best rookie receivers we've ever seen before injuries took apart his career. He's getting an insane target share, and his explosiveness and how good he is with the ball in his hands. We knew he was incredible at LSU, but he is such a powerful runner. I didn't realize that he was sort of in that. Honestly, it feels like there's some Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill to him when the ball's in his hands. Like, I can run by you, I can run through you, I can put you on the ground type of stuff. And that's just crazy impressive. And then we're not even talking about Bowers, who is already one of the best tight ends in the league.
I mean, we spent plenty of time on Bowers' exceptional play, but already one of the best tight ends in the league.
Yeah.
Stop it. Relax.
He is.
Deep breath. Take a deep breath.
I feel like there's been no big, like Isaiah Likely had a big tight end game to start the year, and then like the top tight end game since then has been 60 yards. I know, who was it? Hunter Henry had a 100-yard game today, but like you get the idea. Like all the big tight ends have struggled so far this year. So you don't got to be that great to be a top 10 tight end in the NFL right now.
We're also just we're all hurt from the Kyle Pitts experience. And so our hearts are guarded. Our hearts are guarded. So we're seeing Brock Bowers, and like we're like, oh, he's in this offense that's not going to be explosive at all with Minshew, and Antonio Pierce wants to punt from the opponent's 20-yard line. Like, and it's like, no, he's a freak. Should we get back to more games?
Let's get back to it.
All right. The Vikings. They beat the 49ers today and improved to 2-0 behind a great defense where Brian Flores sort of confused. I almost called him Jimmy Garoppolo, but his name
Shanahan.
I was gonna say
and Brock Purdy.
I was gonna say I almost said Jimmy Garoppolo, but I meant Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
1 week ago, we felt sure that the Niners were gonna cruise through the season, even with a injured Christian McCaffrey who was just put on IR. We thought the Vikings were like, I don't know, significantly below the Lions and the Packers in that division. The Lions suddenly look beatable. Jordan Love is injured. How much has this week changed how you view the fortunes of those two teams?
Yeah, I think the Brian Flores point was the biggest point for me in this game. Is their plan on third down was to do these simulated pressures that seemed to really confuse Brock Purdy. Occasionally, they'd actually send the blitz, but I came into this game thinking about Brian Flores' style generally was to like create a boom or bust situation because he didn't have the talent last year. Now that the talent has increased a little bit, you are getting less of that like crazy kamikaze blitz, like either you score a touchdown or we get a sack, but you are getting the more complex and interesting defenses that it's clear that it felt like almost every third down, it felt like Brock Purdy was guessing.
And it didn't feel like Kyle Shanahan gave him a lot of easy answers in this game. And that I think is the ultimate compliment. If you can be varied enough that Kyle Shanahan doesn't know how to pick you apart, I think that's pretty telling. There are a couple blown coverages. George Kittle had a big catch on a blown coverage, but I do think this offense really misses McCaffrey in the passing game. Like, I think Jordan Mason's been fine on the ground. I don't think that is the concern here, but I think in terms of the mismatches, in terms of the, what defense is really feared about this Niners passing attack, I think it is becoming much more difficult without having a pass catcher in the backfield. And I don't know if that means more Debo coming out of the backfield. I don't know how that changes the offense. We saw Jawan Jennings play a bigger role in this game, but that is something I think we have to monitor from the Niners side. From the Vikings side, this is going to sound stupid, and maybe it is, but I don't know that I feel differently about Sam Darnold after these first 2 weeks.
No.
I've been skeptical of Sam Darnold. It's not like I don't think he can throw the football. Like that 99-yard throw to Justin Jefferson or 97-yard throw to Justin Jefferson, incredible throw, but we know he has arm talent. I don't think that's been the issue. The issue's been the throw he put into triple coverage that Fred Warner lured and picked off.
That was a sick interception.
And yeah, it was a really good interception. It's a great play by a Hall of Fame player. But the question for me with Sam Darnold, it's the same question that people raise about Lamar Jackson, right? What happens when you are playing from behind and you need to throw to catch up? Because that is when Sam Darnold struggled. When there's been consistent pressure on Sam Darnold, he struggled. That I think is my big concern. We've seen him be good for stretches in Carolina, where he was able to, especially early that year with McCaffrey, before McCaffrey got hurt, they moved the ball effectively. They were playing from ahead the entire time. They got off to a 3-0 start. Sam Darnold was weirdly the NFL leader in rushing touchdowns for a 3-week span. But
about that.
It fell apart once they started playing from behind and needed throwing situations. And, I'm optimistic. I think it's good. I'm honestly a little surprised that our friend Mina Kimes already in week 2 pulled out the Sam Darnold receipts about how she's been backing Sam this whole time.
That won't backfire.
That seems a little too early for me.
That won't backfire. No way.
I agree with you. I think that it's funny. I didn't know Mina was tweeting that, but it's funny that she would tweet that because she is the queen of wins are not a quarterback stat. And if you take the wins away and you watch what Sam Darnold has done in these games, it's been fine. It's been fine. Yeah, we can win with that. It's not wholly.
I think a lot of this has to do. There's a lot of scar tissue around the 2018 draft for all of you guys. Not me. Not me by any means, but all of you guys.
Tissue. No scar tissue for me. I was right about everything, as usual. I think I wanted to double back and highlight a point that you made about Christian McCaffrey. And I do think that the ability to confuse Purdy, and it felt like the Vikings confused him last year too, and he threw a few interceptions in that game last year. But I do think that part of that ability to confuse Purdy has something to do with Christian McCaffrey. You'd be less prone to put certain players in these compromising positions as often as they did, because you're right. The successful plays they had were some blown coverages, and there were other blown coverages. But the people that were out in the open were not. It was Mason. It wasn't Christian McCaffrey, and I think you're more likely to have more conservative defensive plays, or if someone's going to be aggressive and risky, big plays as a result. And it changes everything about your game plan, and it changes everything about the result. And we thought that we could get away, or we considered the idea that their running game would still be good without Christian McCaffrey. But that's not why they paid or traded for Christian McCaffrey, and that's not why Christian McCaffrey got paid. Mm-hmm. If he was just a running back, even a great running back, you'd be less likely to make those accommodations. He's a running back that can break defenses and limit the way that defenses can attack your quarterback.
So, Charlie, are you calling Brock Purdy middle management Jimmy Garoppolo? Dad bod Jimmy Garoppolo? What is the? How are you criticizing him?
I don't really have a hot take on him. I just think he's pretty good, and he's he's a lightning rod for no reason. I think it's pretty clear. This is going to be such a boring thing for a podcast, but I think it's pretty clear that this offense operates better with Brock Purdy than it did during the Jimmy Garoppolo era, and that's about it. There's obviously a big teardrop from the best quarterbacks in football, but I don't find him that controversial at this point.
So next week, if he throws 2 interceptions, you're not going to come in and go at Brock Purdy for 20 minutes?
No, I can't. He's been bullied enough by people on the internet. That's not who I would cape for.
And he's done enough, I think, to buy him more than a couple bad weeks. Mm-hmm. His playoff run last year, he's done enough to buy a little bit of more support, but yeah, and there are no other options.
Also, Bill, do you remember the victory lap after the Ravens game last year of the people of your ilk being like, I knew Brock Purdy was a fraud. I've been right all along. He's
EPA
terrible.
actually sucks.
Yeah. And like us, like normal people are just like, this is ridiculous.
How long do you think you can get away with calling yourself us normal people? Like, we've had this show for what, 2 years now?
I'm a normal.
You're not. You're no longer a normal. You have opinions too. You're one of us.
Yep.
I see you out there
Absolutely.
tweeting, trying to get some clout, trying to get some retweets.
All right. Moving on to our next game. Bucs Lions. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, despite getting overwhelmingly outgained by the Lions, they won through Baker's grit and guile, underdog mentality. The Bucs are 2-0 this year. So are they. So are the Saints. That NFC South that we totally wrote off as a joke. Actually, looking at some good early results. But the Lions,
The Panthers are in the AFC
Yeah.
South too. But anyway, go ahead.
they haven't been relegated yet.
No.
The Lions could easily be 0-2 though.
Yeah.
What do you guys think has been the problem for them? Did we overlook some of their weaknesses coming into the year? And then on the other side, when we get to the Bucs part of this, we're gonna look back at this as the high point of their season, or is this something that's real?
It felt real to me. I know you asked the Lions questions first, but
Choose your own adventure
yeah,
in
I
our
think
whiplash game.
the Lions or the Bucs part felt real in part because of my respect for the Lions offensive line. And towards the end of that game, the Bucs were able to like collapse the offensive line. And we saw that the Lions offensive line pretty much won their first game for them with that fourth quarter running game. And the Bucs did well in those situations. That was impressive. Baker Mayfield, also, like we talked about when he first was drafted, how his athleticism didn't necessarily translate. That seemed to be a big part of his game today, was his ability to buy time and also just flat out run the ball. If that's something that continues, it's a element of this offense that I think can make them pretty formidable in the NFC.
From the Bucs side of things, like, Aiden Hutchinson had 4.5 sacks.
Oh, Lord.
And I don't know if there's a lot of other Lions players who are going to be through with how they played. And I don't think they were bad in this game necessarily, but like if Aiden Hutchinson is not dominating, and he was for stretches of this game, like you can move the ball on the Lions. That's not anything new. That has been the concern for this team that Domonique has mentioned all year last year, is they were playing really good football. Like that is the one weakness is they don't necessarily have that great second pass rusher. The secondary has been a work in progress for the entirety of Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn's time there. And they've added new pieces. I think there's more reasons to be optimistic, but like Baker was able to make big plays in this game with his legs. They hit Godwin for a bunch of big plays on third downs. Like the Bucs are never going to be a great running team. They're not a great running team now. They've been terrible the last couple of years, but Baker is going to be able to extend plays. He is someone who, again, when he's not trailing by 2 or 3 scores, when he's not behind an offensive line he doesn't trust, like he can move the ball. And, I think he has been, I think part of it is that he got to play the Commanders in week 1, which is going to make Daniel Jones look good today. It's going to make a lot of people look good. But I do think, he is playing smart football so far this season. And then from Detroit's side, I was skeptical of Detroit this year. I think they're still going to be a playoff team, but I have the Packers winning the division. I do think Jared Goff is not playing great right now. There's been inconsistencies with how he's played. He's missed some throws. The running game, it was really good at the end of the game against the Rams. I don't know if it was great throughout the entirety of the game in week 1, and not great this week, even though the Bucs didn't have Vita Vea for a chunk of this game. They didn't have Antoine Winfield, their best defensive player, probably their best player, period, on either side of the football. They didn't have Clyde Sikansky, their first-round pick from last year. They were banged up on defense, and it felt like Amon-Ra was getting open, and they had a couple big plays from Jameson Williams, but Sam Laporta has not really been effective so far this year. One of the many tight ends who has not been effective this year. And the line, even though it's still really good, is not as good as it was a year ago. It's not as deep. They don't have Jonah Jackson, and there's more weaknesses there. And we know it, Jared Goff. If you give Jared Goff protection, he is going to be phenomenal. But if you get any pressure on Jared Goff, he's stinky. And there was too much pressure from here at moments in this game for a team that was down multiple starters on defense on Jared Goff.
I think that there was a sign early in this game that suggests to me that the Lions see themselves closer to the way that Bill Barnwell sees them than the way that the rest of us see them. when they're running fake punts backed up early on in the game. Like this, I understand this Dan Campbell. It's just Dan Campbell being Dan Campbell. It's also a team that's like, hey, we got to steal some possessions.
That's some Madden stuff. I love it.
I mean, it was cool. We all loved it. If they would have won, it would have been fine. But I just, from a mentality standpoint, that's like, oh, our defense, we don't want to put them back out there. How can we figure out a way to keep from putting our defense back out there? And unfortunately for them, Jared Goff wasn't great to have out there either. And the missed throws were difficult for him. There were open guys that he was missing. And it's similar to a lot of the quarterbacks in the league where there's one tier of quarterback, then there's another tier of quarterback that is very good. You don't want to move on from them, but it's like, hey, when we're in trouble, are you going to lift us? And he ain't that.
You're telling me there's different tiers of quarterbacks?
No, I don't think so.
Does anyone document that on the show?
Nope, never been done.
There was so much Dak Prescott sadness in the if the situation's right, he's not going to lift this team, and we're just going to blame Jared Goff.
That's just not true for Dak Prescott. You're trying to argue that somehow Dak Prescott and Jared Goff are the same player. It's not.
That's not what I'm arguing. I was just.
No, there was no Dak in the back of my mind as I'm making this Jared Goff analysis.
That's not true.
Dak is not
There's always
that.
Dak floating around in the back of your mind. Andy, I don't care. You're at the grocery store. You're seeing. You're doing little. Here we go.
Before we get to our last games, we get into Chiefs Bengals in the afternoon slate.
Woo!
He added a little to the here we goes today.
Ooh.
It was majestic. Yeah, here we go.
That's a confident man.
I loved it.
That's a confident man.
Yeah.
Here we go.
We're down 28 points, and I'm stretching out my here we goes to go even longer.
That's impressive. That's when a weaker person's confidence would not be there. Yeah. When someone might have to say that their confidence was in the Lord is how they were feeling. But Dak Prescott, confidence was still in his, here we go.
Oh, poor Bryce Young.
Yeah, Bryce
Young.
We're not going to talk about
the Lord, I was going to say, can the Lord run a 4-3? Because the Panthers could really use the Lord if he's out there.
It's a pretty good chance. He can run a 4-3.
All right, last game. Let's move to the.
Charlie's getting nervous.
Now we got a clock. This is going on TV. I'm trying to get this.
Let's go. Let's get
Chiefs Bengals. The only result we really care about from the 4 p.m. window. The Chiefs snuck by the Bengals in a game where there were two important penalties on the last possession. One was a legal hands to the face. One was a pass interference penalty. Harrison Butker made the kick directly down the center between the uprights.
It was leaning right a little bit, though. Yeah, leaning more right than I anticipated.
But, this is a Bengals team who we sort of wrote off for dead last week with how Joe Burrow looked, how not explosive their offense looked. There were mistakes this game. Obviously, he had a fumble return for a touchdown. Mahomes had 2 interceptions, but they went into Arrowhead, and they seem to be the one team that's not really affected by the Chiefs' lore playing there. They're 0-2, just like the Ravens in that AFC North, and the Chiefs are rolling. But they've played 2 tight games. When you look at these teams, do you feel any differently after this week than you did coming into it? Any whiplash?
I mean, I think there's enough evidence there to give us some confirmation bias with the Chiefs. But first of all, Cam Taylor-Britt came in talking and snagged that one-hand interception. I will not let us...
Unworthy.
Yeah, I know. Justice for Cam Taylor-Britt. I'm not going to let us talk about all this other stuff without first getting in that interception was outstanding. And also, that pass interference at the end, I don't like that call. Garbage call. But... I didn't like it. I understand he got there early. He's going for the ball. It's fine. Anyway, we could agree to disagree. Maybe I'm a little bit biased. I think that there's enough confirmation bias for us to feel confident about the Chiefs, but I'm not sure that we've seen, particularly coming off the way the Ravens played this last game, I'm not sure that we've seen the Chiefs get to the level that we anticipated and we've been predicting, and they're still 2-0, and it's fine, and they'll grow and get better because they're the Chiefs, but they aren't there yet. And as for the Bengals, the two big questions coming in this game was, are they going to be able to stop the run? And the most important one is their quarterback healthy? And can he push the ball down the field? Yeah, that question was answered. It seemed like he could push the ball down the field. How long he's going to be healthy is another question altogether. And the defense, I haven't seen enough to feel confident that the defense is completely solved. So I don't know that I feel that different about either team right now.
I'll start with the Chiefs side of things, because I do feel different about the Chiefs. I was very optimistic about the Chiefs heading into the year. I was throwing out 2007 Patriots comparisons. They are not that good of a team right now. They are not. Their defense, the secondary is not good enough. You saw in this game, they had a very clear game plan. We are going to double Jamar Chase and make those other guys beat us. And those other guys were beating them for a good chunk of this game. Yeah. They did not have that L'Jarius Sneed level thing where they could put him on one guy and then lock everything else up with Trent McDuffie. So I forget who told me that was going to be the case. I think Mina mentioned it on our podcast together.
Maybe it was her. Probably was Mina.
But
it wasn't a cornerback.
You know, like that secondary is a work in progress. I think they're going to be fine. My bigger concern about the Chiefs is left tackle, because first week, Keita Mataya didn't have didn't have a great game, going up against a bunch of different guys. This week, Trey Hendrickson ate his lunch. They benched him, as Charlie said, late in this game for Wanya Morris, who did catch a touchdown pass in this game, but who was bad last year, who the Chiefs drafted because they didn't trust him at left tackle, and who they put in out of sheer desperation. I don't know. If you're Andy Reid, I figure once you got back to the locker room, you were calling Donovan Smith just in case you couldn't get him tomorrow morning, in case he was at the grocery store and didn't get good service. I understand you want to develop a left tackle. I understand you want to, have a building block. You're going to develop young talent. The Chiefs are good at that. You're going to be patient. But this is the 3-peat team. Mahomes is getting hit too often in this game. They could not protect. They were multiple big plays in this game were wiped off because of penalties on Mataya, on Morris. If that's your only real problem on offense, and we'll see what happens with Isaiah Pacheco, who's hurt, and there's a guy who you have on your roster, who you have on speed dial, who is good, who can step in, I don't know how you don't make that call tomorrow.
I do, and maybe this is also just about the way your opinions work, but it feels worse when the problem that we pinpoint before the season actually is the problem that happens. Yep. And the tackle and the corners were the things that we were like, all right, hey, yeah, they're great. And everyone was kind of explaining it away because they had tackle issues last year and they'll figure it out. Oh, yeah, the defense is more about the concepts than it is about a particular corner. And then we show up to these games and it feels like maybe that's just growing pains. We have to get adjusted to the way that we have to play now, but it's scary, or it should be concerning for them going forward, especially considering that their aspirations are Super Bowl or bust.
Can I tell you my favorite moment in this game?
Please. Nobody did any Michael Jackson celebration, so I have no guess.
You lost. Early on, Tony Romo they were highlighting Chris Jones, and Romo said, "Yeah, this is my defensive player of the year pick so far." And I was like, he's played literally one game so far, Tony. You're really basing this on 1 week of action? You have your ranking set up after week 1? Wow.
Justice for TJ Watt if you're going off of week 1 alone.
Aiden Hutchinson.
No, off of 1 week. Off of week 1, yeah.
You guys talked about the DBs and the tackle. The thing that I'll say is this offense we thought was going to be a lot more explosive. Right now, Xavier Worthy's a gadget player. Rashee Rice is the centerpiece of the offense, and he's who Domonique despises as a slot guy. He doesn't take the top off the defense.
That's not.
And Travis Kelce's in the garage.
Not true.
They don't have a running game yet, and Pacheco's now hurt and getting x-rays.
The running game's been good. I don't think if Pacheco's hurt, it's a problem, but the running game has been good so far.
Carson Steele.
Yeah, coming out of the first game, I was telling you guys to chill out on the Worthy stuff but anyway, he might turn into something, and Chiefs will be the worst team in football, but find themselves with the Super Bowl championship again.
That's why I said right now. You always couch it with the right now.
Yeah, no one ever hears the right now. You'll learn. It doesn't matter whether you're right now or not. All right.
No one pays attention to what I say anyway.
Yes, they do. Anyway, this has been another awesome episode. Thank you, Bill Barnwell. Thank you, Charlie Kravitz. This has been the Domonique Foxworth Show presented by Allstate. Throw your hands up. Thanks to everybody, ESPN, Podville, we love you. Cortez is a coward. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.